Hey everybody, my name is Destin George Bell, and I am the founder of Cardio, a gamified fitness app turning any outdoor walking, running, biking, or any type of movement into a giant game of turf war where you claim the areas you move through and can have them stolen or steal them from other players and teams in the game. So today we are going to talk about pitch decks. I am currently in Atlanta, as you can see from my very messy hotel room. I'm out of town, and I am here for a pitch competition for a $10,000 grant from the Black and Tech Conference. And I figured as I'm going through my pitch deck, I feel like I could help you out by talking about how you make a winning pitch deck. Now, in the past, we've raised capital. We just got our first lead investor locked in for $1 million, and we're raising 2 million currently. I've also won other pitch competitions. We've won, me and my team, about $90,000 in non-dilutive capital over the last 6 to 9 months through pitching. So I feel like if there's anything I can talk about, it is how to present an idea and get people who are hopefully in a place to give money to give it to you. So first thing I want to dive into would be an outline of what a good pitch deck looks like. Now, the thing about outlines are that they are literally just outlines. There's no technically right or wrong answer to what you do and when you do it. But here's one that I've looked at that for the most part I like. I still have adjusted it based on the flow of my pitch. And that's also the biggest thing I'll tell you is that sometimes the flow of your pitch is the most important thing that you're going to do. But with that being said, let's look at this pitch deck. So basically, this pitch deck we're looking at right here, hopefully you can see my screen, is an outline of the general deck that investors want to see and the flow of how it should go. So you got your introduction, telling people who you are, why you're here, a very light one-liner about your company to preface the conversation. From there, you want to talk about your problem. Talk about some of the stats, some of the user personas, some of the issues that an investor would be able to understand and why those are problematic. Then from there, we move on to the solution. We need a concise, understood explanation of what you're building and why it will solve the problem you just outlined. Then from there, show me your market size and the opportunity within that market. Maybe for us, it's walkers, runners, and bikers, and then the millions of people who aren't, but we could convert into becoming those. Then we could talk about our product. If you have a physical product, if you have a service, if you have a rendering, if you have any type of outline, a visualization of what you're building, that would be an amazing thing to add here because a picture is worth 1,000 words. A video and a live demo is worth 1 million, in my opinion. And then talk about traction. They want to know, okay, you're doing this, you have an idea, here's the problem you're solving, here's the product that you're going to be using to solve that problem. But then where is the traction? Are people using it? Are you making money? Do you have people on the wait list? Do you have LOIs? Have you done like certain milestones relative to your product, whether to your service, whether to the social impact, whatever traction metrics that you think highlight how well your product works, I would definitely add those in there. Then your team, at the end of the day, a great strategy, a great product, good traction is only as important as the team because you're, especially in the early stage, really going to mess up a lot. There's going to be things you're going to pivot. And they want to know, does your team have the ability to be agile? Do they have the experience? Do they have the knowledge? Are they experts in this domain? And they want to know that the people behind this, the engine, will be able to fix things when they break. Then we talk about competition. Who are your competitors? Who's out there? How are you different? How are you cheaper, faster, more effective, reduce risk, more enjoyable, more accessible, less accessible with a higher price tag? Whatever it is that your competitive advantage is and where you defer from your competitors in the space, important to highlight. Of course, you got to talk about the financials because as much as they love what you're building and how they can change the world by investing in it, they want to know 5 to 10 years from now when you exit, am I going to make money? Show them the financials, show the breakdown of how you're going to make money, where the money's going to come from, how it's going to trend over time. Talk a little bit about exit strategy, about where you're expecting to go and where the money comes into that equation. And then talk about the investment vehicle. So if you're raising $2 million, is that on a safe? What's the post-money, pre-money valuation? Is it a valuation cap? And then break down, if you're spending that $2 million, how much of it's marketing, how much of it is salaries, how much of it's operations. Is there any miscellaneous fees in there that we're not even thinking about? Is it R&D, tech development? All these different things that are going to be important for how you're spending the money should be broken in there. Now, like I said, the focus here is more about hitting all these things and not doing it in that order. It doesn't particularly matter. The most important thing, in my opinion, is that if you at least hit on all these things, but you format it in a way that flows for the best possible pitching and listening experience, that's how I would go about doing that. So that being said, let me go ahead and bounce into specifically what I'm working on and what my deck looks like. So if we pull up my deck, if it allows me to, and make sure that it's pull upable, if that's a word. Here we go. All right, so we have my screen here for my deck. So I'll just run through this very quickly. The main focus of this is not about pitching, it's more about the formation of the deck. But I'm just going to run through a pretty high level of what this deck looks like. So, for one, you got your introductory page right here. Here, I would just say, hey, my name is Destin, and we're looking to change the way that people move every day with cardio. Then we dive into the problem. 77% of Americans get below the recommended aerobic exercise daily, and 47% move less than 30 minutes a day. Fact is, cardio is boring, unengaging, and unmotivating. And when we talk to people who are runners, runners being an encapsulating term for everything cardio, walking, running, biking, and then could be people who want to get into those things but haven't found the motivation to do so, we found some trends. Here we highlight those trends. Runners are looking to stay healthy, but they don't really enjoy the process. They just have the discipline to do it anyway. The could be runners don't have the discipline or the motivation, and they're finding ways to get around that by playing basketball, by doing all these other activities that require them to move that are more fun. And now we talk about a little bit of our solution. Well, okay, let's make a fun, engaging, addictive activity around cardio. What's something that's kind of already done that? Pokemon Go. 300 million people every month across the world still use Pokemon Go to this day to move, catch Pokemon, and it gets them up and moving at an average of 2 miles a day for some of these users. How can we take that same type of experience for people who don't love cardio and make it so fun that they'll get up and move and do it every day? Then we dive into our specific solution, transforming cardio into a global game of turf war where you claim, steal, and defend your turf with friends via outdoor cardio. Add in some screenshots to add that visual. Then we actually have a demo, because like I said, a demo is worth a million words, in my opinion. And so now with this demo, you can see a specific walkthrough of how the app works. So to give you an idea of how it works. As you walk or run through an area, it'll track it the same way you would on Strava, Nike Run Club. You'll still have your distance, your mile pace, your calories burned, your mile splits. But in addition, you'll also claim those areas for your team with an icon and colors to display that. So in this case, we're on Team Houston Rockets. We can see we went through this part of Houston, stole it from the Astros. Here's the mile pace, here's the calories, here's the distance. And as you level up based on the more activity you do, you can increase your ability to steal turf, which is the attack, or your ability to make it hard for people to steal your turf, the defense, and add this social gamified element to whatever outdoor movement you're already doing to hopefully make it a more addictive experience. So there we go, hitting on the solution. Now, again, like I said, it's more about the flow than it is about building it out exactly as that outline is. Whatever flows the best and whatever you feel like answers the questions that your audience is going to have mid pitch, I feel like is the best way to orient it. So for us, even though it was like near the back of the pitch outline I showed you, me personally, I feel like having competition there just didn't flow very well. So here's my competition slide talking about the market opportunity. So we look at Pokemon Go versus Strava, Nike Run Club, Runkeeper, other of the large fitness apps here in the US. Domestically, Pokemon Go has 5 times the monthly active users as the number one fitness app, Strava. And if we look at share of time spent in the app, which is the average individual session time across all 4 of these apps, thrown into one pie graph broken down proportionally, 96% of the time spent on all 4 of these apps are spent on Pokemon Go, time that goes into monetization opportunities, data points, daily active, weekly active, and monthly active use. And more importantly, for our investors and for the people using this app, a reason to get people to move every day and be more active and create a product that's sticky and will get used every day. So now we dive into traction. Where are we at? So we have 5 paying partners. I guess before I even dive into this, traction, these numbers will be different for everybody. If you're a consumer app, maybe it's beta users, maybe it's your wait list, maybe it's revenue, maybe it's average engagement time. It's kind of hard to say. It really depends on your company, whatever your service product is. You need to figure out what are those most important North Star metrics of success and then figure out where you're standing on those and put that in your traction slide. But for me, here are some of mine. So we have 5 paying partners. Like I mentioned, it's a custom game of turf war with teams that you can create and recruit your communities to join. In this case, we have 5 groups that are paying us to do that. We have 3,000 people on our beta user waitlist. We are generating $550 currently monthly recurring pre-product launch from those paying partners. We have influencers who are bringing on their communities to join the app as custom teams. And then we actually got a 50K grant from Pokemon Go, as well as a soft commit for our current seed round. So these are some of the metrics that are non-app based that we felt like were important. But even though we're not live, we do have a private beta. So in the case that you do have more than one type of category of metrics, like in our case, we have the business side, which are these things right here, but we also have our private beta, which has user data that's important for us. And so in this case, we want to highlight what those metrics are. So we have our user count, we have the number of activity hours clocked among those users, we have miles tracked, which being a fitness app focused on outdoor cardio, the number of miles that we're tracking is obviously important. We have the number of blocks, as you saw in the demo, that we have a number of blocks around the city that you're in that you can claim. We've got 10,000 blocks captured uniquely across all the cities that we're located in right now. And then we have our monthly active, weekly active, and daily active user numbers, which just show the engagement level of people using the app currently. Now we dive into market and market opportunity. So we have the domestic market and the global market for bikers, runners, and walkers. And so you can just see here highlighting domestically, we hit these numbers. Globally, we have these numbers. We also believe that among these users and these potential users, we have the opportunity to expand beyond people who are walkers, runners, and bikers. Really paint the picture of how big of a market you have, how big the opportunity is there. Also, for us, we have a B2B market. So we're talking about corporate wellness, which is our biggest one. We got groups like Dell, Chevron, Exxon, University of Kentucky that we talk to. We highlight a little bit of the financial opportunity there. $238 per employee are spent on corporate wellness every year. 81% of companies over 100 employees have a budget for corporate wellness. $3 are made in healthcare cost savings for every dollar invested in corporate wellness, yet only 25% of employees are actually engaging in whatever opportunities that their company creates for corporate wellness. It means there's a lot of money being spent. There's a lot of money to be made for companies having a good corporate wellness program, but there's not a lot of people using them. There's a gap there. We're looking to exploit that gap. We tell that story through these numbers and through the way that we present this slide. Of course, we talk about our marketing strategy. This wasn't something that was highlighted in that outline that I sent you, but at the same time, I feel like it's really important to highlight this because if you don't, I mean, they're going to always have those questions of, how are you going to get people to find out about your product? I feel like it's better to just get in front of that. So this is one thing I added, the outline didn't, marketing strategy. So brand influencers, social media ad campaigns, virality cycle of you getting on and inviting your friend who invites their friend who invites their friend's cousin, yada, yada, yada. And then also real world sponsorships and events. We got partners with groups I mentioned before who are already going to be offering free, exclusive, discounted gear, tickets, workouts, items, products, etc., through certain actions on the app. And then we talk about our go-to-market strategy. This is kind of baked into the marketing strategy I just mentioned, but pretty much our go-to-market strategy is partnering with these organizations to create a communal team where now F45 recruits F45 members to join the F45 team. And instead of us having to go and find each of those individual users on our own, we can now get them to come to us by F45 promoting them for us. And now F45 pays us monthly and we're making money on acquisition of users versus paying to acquire them. So monetization is important too. There's one thing I also didn't see in that outline is like business modeling, because how are you going to make money? I know you probably could put that in your solution. It wasn't obvious in that outline to me, so this is something you should also have, in my opinion. Monetization strategy. How are you going to make money? Where's the money coming from? We are not a 501c3, unless you are, which is great. But even still, you got to, raise money or find ways to monetize to pay for all the things that you do. So in our case, we have the consumer side. In-game purchases is in-game currency. Same things you would see in apps like a Pokemon Go, like a Clash of Clans. In-game currency purchases. Premium subscriptions, advanced analytics, advanced features, corporate wellness on the B2B side, which I already mentioned, and then brand partnerships. These are just a couple, but we just wanted to highlight the core four, and I felt like this visual just worked better than anything I could have made with all the different opportunities that I was thinking of. This is also not required, but it's a question I continuously got when I was pitching. Was where's the direction of this company? Like, where is it going to grow from here? I see where your product is today. What will it look like a year, 5 years, 10 years from now? And so we just made this quick roadmap to highlight where we're going. So in terms of phase one, this is where we are right now. We're raising this seed round, first hires, beta launching in our first initial cities, brand partner launch, moving into phase two, corporate wellness, more cities, real world applications, or real world events, I should say, wearable native application. Phase three, Series A, national launch, partnerships with more B2B organizations and health insurance, potentially metaverse and AR integrations. And then phase four would be basically us mastering all these things and then moving into an expansion where we take those standard operating procedures and then figuring out how we can move them into different countries beyond the US. Now we talk financials. We're raising $2 million, valuation, discount rate, security type. We also broke down in terms of a pie chart the spend, 48.5% SG&A. That's literally me and my co-founder salaries, first hires, health insurance, legal counsel, rent, office space, all that. Marketing, ad spend, promotional materials, swag like this, all those spends along that line. Operations, the server space, backend softwares, API costs, all that. Miscellaneous is certain things like we're looking to buy, instead of having all these eyes, we're looking to buy card.io, which is owned by PayPal, so we don't have it yet, but we have to buy it from them, and other miscellaneous things that don't really fit into any of these primary categories but still need to be spent. Then we break into financials. Financials is the revenue side. We also just threw users on this because it's also projection. So even though that's technically not financial, it's important because A, we're a consumer app. Users are the lifeblood. And then B, the users are the main revenue driver because the more users we have, the more brands we work with, the more in-app purchases get made, the more premium subscribers we can get. So even though it's not directly a financial metric, it is a big driver, and it's important to include that in there as well. So really, when you're walking through this slide, when you're talking to people, just let them know, hey, here's what we're looking to do on users, on company partners, on clients, whatever the North Star metric is on the people who are going to be spending money with you is, like, highlight the growth of that. You can even break down specifically, like if you have multiple different types of personas, who they are. In this case, we just focus on actual users on the consumer side instead of focusing on the brands, corporate wellness, and whatnot. And then on the revenue side, you can see the revenue splits from year one, year two, year three, and year four, and then how it breaks down in a simple table below that for each of the four verticals I mentioned. Another thing I like to just speak on here is that these are the four that we're focusing on. However, over the next 4 years, we expect there to be new ones like anonymized data sets and real life activations, a whole bunch of stuff that not encompassed all entirely in this slide. Then we have teams. We talk about yourself, kind of just highlight a little bit about who you are, your background, why you're the person to work on this project. In my case, I have a background in sales with Qualtrics. I'm an entrepreneurship fellow for Venture for America. I have a secondary business as a content creator with contracts with Old Spice, NBA, Mobile One. I talk about the sales part for the brand piece. I talk about Venture for America because the entrepreneurship piece. I talk about the other company to show that I have success with other ventures, as well as my ability to develop brand partnerships and relationships with groups that people have heard of. For my CTO, talk about his background in development. He worked at LinkedIn as an iOS engineer. He raised $3.5 million for a former startup he was working with, and then some of the logos of groups that he's been with, like Human Capital, Delta Fellowship, etc. And then also advisory board, which is an extension of your team, even though they're not in the trenches with you at all times. Having advisors with industry experience and it can offer advice, potentially even become investors, is important. For us, we highlight the founder of Matt My Run, director of innovation for Adidas Running, Zynga, which is one of the biggest game companies, Strava, which is one of our competitors, Swift, which is a cardio-based app. It's kind of like a Peloton, but still like cardio-based, and he's head of their engineering. Pokemon Go is former senior iOS engineer. And then a lady with her own company in corporate wellness who has contracts with Keller Williams and HEB. And then I like to just have like a follow-up slide here to just break down the specifics, or not even the specifics, I should say, but just pretty much give an outro like, hey, again, my name is Destin. Here's my email. Pretty much a recap of everything I just said. We're looking to change social movement. If you're in a situation where there's Q&A, maybe mention that here or just drop it and then let them follow up with you as they see fit. We also have an appendix, which is important because your appendix kind of highlights some of the things that they might have questions about, like, oh, where you compare in the competitive landscape, user personas, data around those user personas, in-app purchases, how much money you expect them to make, what are the economics of that, premium subscriptions, what do they get for that, brand activations, what do the companies get with that, what does it look like, what's the revenue model for that, corporate wellness, same thing, and then if you have any pricing information or anything along those lines that are important, potentially put those there. The one last thing I will leave you with is that pitch deck development, though there's a lot of, trial and error that goes into that for one. So I'll show you, obviously I just showed you the specifics of what mine looks like. But if we dive into infinite window, but if we dive into what that looks like, I built my deck on Figma. And so here are like all the different variations of some of these screens that I've made in the past. So you can see here, like made this slide, but it initially looked like this. We did a lot of testing around that. We had different screenshots here to see which tested better. Initially, it looked like this. Our solution slide used to look more like this. Then we added these different screenshots. We have that demo one, but in the case we have a static pitch deck, like sometimes you send as a PDF instead of a video, and obviously you can't put a video in a PDF. We use this slide here for a non-presentation mode pitch. We got this here, like, we changed like the slides. We mentioned this Niantic thing with the Pokemon Go 50K grant differently. We kind of played around with that along this time. Obviously, your traction metrics will change. The way you look at your market changes. And so you can just see from here, play around with a lot of different designs, figure out what is the best look for your presentation, and then go about doing that. In terms of making a deck, I highly recommend using something like a Figma. I think Figma gives you a lot more control on how you go about building stuff. So I personally enjoy that one a lot, and it's a free tool online. They actually just got acquired by Adobe, I think, for like $20 billion. So they're a very good company. I'm a big fan of them. PowerPoint obviously isn't bad. I think even if you take your slides and make them in Figma, you should probably integrate them into PowerPoint so that way you can present them easier. And you can also incorporate live video, and they're just a lot easier to send that way because people are expecting things to be in PowerPoint or PDF format. So that's where I would go with that. But with that being said, I don't want to make this a super long video. I wanted to just highlight it very high level, and I think I might come back and do a more specific, in-depth breakdown of how I go about making that pitch deck, and then also presenting it in a formal presentation manner. With that being said, my name is Destin. I am the founder of Cardio, and I hope this video has been helpful for you. See ya.